Welcome to English digital class. Children, in the previous class we saw in the picture that Rip was sleeping and a long beard grew and there were creepers all around him, isn't it children? You must have also tried to speak a few words about the picture. The task was given in the previous class. Now children, are you all ready with your oral discourse children? Okay. Children, now let us look at one of our friends' presentation.
Old man and his shirt is blue in color and his very long beard and his hat is green color and pant is brown color. The shoes is very brown and black and we see mushrooms, creepers and their socks is and cascaded mountains and we see one small mushrooms and there is full in green color and mountains, trees in a forest. The old man was sleeping.
After the children's oral description, now let us watch one of our teacher's version.
My version of oral picture description is, we see an old man lying on the ground. He was in deep sleep. He has a long grey beard. He is wearing tattered clothes. He is having white grey coat with brown trousers. The socks and shoes were torn and his hat was also torn, which is in green color. The cobwebs developed around him. The creepers were growing on him. There is a broken gun beside him. The old man, it seems that he was sleeping for a long time. There was no disturbance of any kind near his place. The lake is peaceful. The atmosphere is very peaceful.
Children, you have seen the children's presentation and also teacher's presentation. They both are almost similar, isn't it children? But the teacher has used more describing words. Children, you also have done almost very well. When we describe, we should describe the shape, size, color of the object and persons in the picture. Children, why do you think the man in the picture has such a long beard? Why the creepers are on him? Why is he sleeping? Do you have any idea? No. It's okay. Let us learn about that person today. He is Rip Van Winkle. Children, let us read about him and understand what type of a person he is and how he lived in his place. Children, you can look at the video of the children reading their text and you can also see they are putting a tick mark for the sentence that they understood and putting a wrong mark for the sentence that they have not understood and putting a star mark for the sentences they liked the most. Children, while you are reading, you might have come across unfamiliar words. Let us look at their meanings and try to understand them. Yes, foothills, a hill at the foot of higher hill. Catskill Mountains. These are the mountains which change its color according to the season. Neighbor, a person who lives next to or near another person. Farm, a piece of land used for growing crops or raising animals. Fences, a wall built outdoors with wood to prevent animals or people from entering. Weeds, any wild plant which grows in a garden. Astray, away from the correct path. You can see the cows going astray. Companion, one that is closely connected. You can see Rip has a companion, that is his dog. Avoid, to stay away. Tired, feeling a need to rest or sleep. You can see the man, he is very tired sitting at the dinner table and he is feeling very sleepy. Daydreaming, a wishful imagination. You can see a man, he is dreaming about his trip. Children, by now you might have understood the meaning of the difficult words. Okay children, now let us sit in groups and share our ideas about the text that we have read. Let us share one idea each and take turns. If you don't understand anything, don't worry, you may take the help of your friends or your teacher. Now you can watch this video and you can see how the children are sitting in groups and reading. After sharing your ideas, now let us read the lesson. Before reading, you can watch this video of Rip Van Winkle.
Rip Van Winkle, Chapter 1. The Catskill Mountains change color at different times of the year. Many people think that they are magic mountains. It is 1769. In a village near the Catskills lives a friendly man. His name is Rip Van Winkle. The village children love him. Rip loves doing nothing all day. But when the men of the village ask Rip for help on their farms, he always goes and helps them. And when the women of the village ask Rip for help, he never says no. Rip is always ready to do his neighbor's work, but he never works on his farm. The Van Winkles have two wild children, Rip and Judith. Young Rip always wears his father's old clothes. Morning and night, Mrs. Van Winkle tells him that he is lazy. Rip never answers her. This makes her angrier. One day, Rip leaves his wife at the farm. He calls his dog Wolf, and they go for a walk in the mountains. In the late afternoon, Rip sits on one of the mountains. For a long time, he watches the beautiful Hudson River. Soon, the sky is dark. Rip's wife always gets angry when he comes home late, so he must leave now. When he goes down the mountain, Rip meets a stranger. The man has something on his back. The stranger isn't very tall. He's fat, his hair is wild, and he's wearing old Dutch clothes. He wants Rip to carry the barrel. Rip walks up the mountain with the man. Sometimes he carries the barrel to help him. The stranger says nothing. After a time, they meet a number of men in the mountains. They are all playing an old Dutch game and wearing old Dutch clothes. The man with the barrel gives them all a drink. Everything is quiet. Nobody smiles, and nobody speaks. When the men begin to play again, Rip has a drink. He feels thirsty, so he drinks more and more. Soon, Rip is tired. His eyes close, and he goes to sleep.
Children, by now you might have understood the lesson very clearly. Children, now I will read the passage. You can follow me looking into your text. Many years ago, at the foothills of the Catskill Mountains was a small village. In the village lived a simple, good-natured fellow named Rip Van Winkle. He was a kind neighbor, ready to help anyone. Everyone in the village liked him. The children of the village shouted with joy whenever they saw him because he played with them. He taught them to fly kites and shoot marbles and told them long stories. The only problem with Rip was that he was very lazy. He did not work on his own farm and just idled away his time. His fences were falling to pieces. His cow was going astray. Weeds grew in his farm. Rip's constant companion was his dog, named Wolf. To avoid work, he would walk away into the forest with his dog. One day, Rip just walked on and reached the highest part of the mountains. It was late in the afternoon when he reached there. Tired after his long climb, he lay down and began daydreaming. It was soon evening and he realized it would be night by the time he reached his village. Children, now we have read the text. Let us look at the questions that are there in the reading text. Where did Rip Van Winkle live? What type of a person was he? How did he help the people in the village? How did he entertain the children? What was the problem with Rip? Who was Rip's companion? Where did Rip go one day? Children, before we answer these questions, now let us see how our friends are reading the text.
Winkle, many years ago at the foothills of the Catskill Mountains was a small village. In the village lived a simple, good-natured fellow named Rip Van Winkle. He was a kind neighbor, ready to help anyone. Everyone in the village liked him. The children of the village shouted with joy whenever they saw because he played with them. They taught them to fly kites and shoot marbles and told them long stories. The only problem with Rip was that he was very lazy. He did not work on his own farm and just idle away his time. His pails were falling to pieces. His cow was going astray. Weeds grew on his farm. Its constant comparison. The cottage was his dog, named Wolf. To avoid work, he would walk away into the forest with his dog. He walked on and reached the highest part of the mountain. It was late in the afternoon, and when he reached there, tired after his long time, he lay down and began dreaming. It was soon evening, and he realized it would be night by the time he reached his village.
Okay children, we have seen our friends reading the text. I have already said you the questions. Now let us try to answer those questions. Where did Rip Van Winkle live? Rip lived at the foothills of Catskill Mountains. What type of a person was he? Rip was a kind-hearted person and ready to help neighbors. How did he help the people in the village? Yes, children, you are very right. Rip helped his neighbors by working in their farms. Children, now let us go to the next question. How did he entertain the children? Yes, Rip played marbles with the children and flied kites. Okay, children, what was the problem with Rip? The only problem with Rip was that he was lazy. Now, children, let us look at the next question. Who was Rip's companion? Yes, you're very right. Rip's companion was his dog, the wolf. Where did Rip go one day? Yes, Rip went to the mountains one day with his wolf. Children, now you might have got an idea of the red text. Who are the characters and where they lived and what did they do? Now let us hear to another questions that you can discuss it with your teacher after this class. This may help you to understand the red text in depth. Now let us look at these questions. Why do you think Rip was so lazy? The next question is, Rip avoided to work in his farm, but he helped his neighbors in their work. What does this depict? Children, now you listened to the story of Rip. Rip was coming back home and by the time he reaches his village, it would be night. At home, his wife must be worried about him. What would be the possible conversation between Rip and his wife? Imagine yourself as Rip and write a conversation. Before we write the conversation, let us look at the features of the conversation. So, children, who are the characters? Yes, the conversation is between Rip's wife and Rip. What are the events? Yes, you're very right, children. Rip was asked to work in his farm, but he went to mountains and returned late. Who will speak first? Suppose in a conversation, who has to take the first initiation? So, definitely in this conversation, it will be his wife, because Rip has come home and as soon as she opens the door, she is the person who is going to speak first. Okay, children, who will speak next? Yes, definitely it will be Rip. What other things should you keep in mind while writing a conversation? Children, now you can take the help of your teacher and write the conversation between Rip and his wife. In the beginning, you can write individually and later you can sit in groups and write the same by contributing one idea each on a chart. So, children, next time when we meet, I will be waiting to read your conversations. Bye, children. Teachers are requested to discuss the features of the conversation once again in the class and guide the children to write the conversation. First, you can take up individual writing, then go for collaborative writing, and then you can go for presentations. Thank you.